I spent graduation day alone, eating a cold burger in my beat-up Honda Civic, parked at the edge of the school lot. The echoes of laughter and celebration spewed from the gym, muffled by distance and the fogged-up windows of my car. I watched families gather for photos, arms wrapped around their graduates, joy radiating from every snapshot. My own cap and gown lay crumpled on the passenger seat, the tassels swinging idly with the divided by sea breeze. The diploma I'd worked so hard to earn rested in my lap, still sealed, still untouched. I'd sent out invitations weeks in advance, one to my dad's last known address in Arizona, one to the rehab center in Oregon where my mom was staying, one to my older brother, who always had something more important going on. The silence that followed wasn't a surprise, it was just confirmation. I walked the stage like everyone else. Principal Harrison shook my hand. I smiled for the camera. A few teachers even cheered, maybe because they knew how hard I fought to make it here. But when I scanned the crowd, I knew no one had come for me. No familiar voices, no faces waiting at the end of the aisle, just empty air. So I left. I changed out of my gown in the restroom, slipped out a side door, and hit the nearest drive-thru. Sitting in my car, with a paper bag on my lap and the taste of lukewarm fries in my mouth, I wondered, is this what accomplishment feels like? Is it supposed to feel this? Hello? Then, a knock on the window startled me. I looked up, startled to see Principal Harrison standing there in his full regalia, peering in with an expression somewhere between concern and curiosity. I rolled the window down halfway. "Hey," he said gently, "mind if I join you?" I blinked. Sure. He didn't wait for a second invite. He walked around to the passenger side, and I scrambled to clear off the seat, pushing my cap, gown, and some empty energy drink cans into the back. "Sorry about the mess," I muttered as he climbed in, his long robes bunching awkwardly in the cramped space. "I've seen worse," he said with a chuckle. "You should see the teacher's lounge." We sat there for a few moments in silence, the weight of the day pressing down on both of us. I held my burger mid-bite, unsure what came next. Harrison wasn't known for small talk. In 4 years, I'd only spoken to him twice, once when I skipped class to fill out a scholarship app, and once when he told me I had potential if I ever decided to believe it myself. "I noticed you weren't at the reception," he finally said, eyes fixed straight ahead. I took a bite to stall, then shrugged. "Didn't really feel like celebrating?" He nodded. "I get it. My own graduation. I spent the party hiding out in the library, quietest place I could find." I glanced at him, surprised. He didn't say anything more. He just sat there with me, letting the silence be what it was, and This didn't match the image I had of Principal Harrison, the ever-composed man who delivered perfect speeches and moved through the halls like he was carved from stone. Seeing him here, in my messy car, cracking a joke, felt surreal. "Why?" I asked, genuinely curious. He gave a faint smile. My parents were in the middle of a loud, public fight over who I'd be living with after the ceremony. Kind of took the shine off the whole proud family moment. He paused, looking out the windshield. They'd been divorced for 3 years by then, but graduation day, apparently the perfect time to air out old wounds. "That sucks," I said, not knowing what else to offer. "It did," he agreed simply, but I realized that day wasn't really about them. I scoffed. "Yeah, well, today's not really about anyone for me. No audience, no problem, right?" Harrison turned toward me, his gaze steadier now. "I've seen your academic record, Ethan. I know the hours you've worked, warehouse shifts late at night, a 3.8 GPA. That's not just admirable, it's remarkable." I shifted in my seat, uncomfortable with the praise. I hated when people tried to turn my life into some kind of inspirational story. They didn't know what it had cost. The late nights, the exhaustion, falling asleep in the library because it was the only quiet place I could rest, trying to stay awake in class after working until 2 a.m. "It's not that big a deal," I muttered. "Plenty of kids have it worse." "Maybe," he said, "but that doesn't make what you've done any less extraordinary." He let the silence sit for a moment before continuing. "When I saw your name on the graduating list, I made sure to watch for you today. I blinked. I wasn't valedictorian. I wasn't class president. I wasn't anyone a principal would go out of their way to notice. Because 4 years ago, he said, lowering his voice, your middle school counselor called me, said she wasn't sure you'd make it to high school graduation, too many absences, home life falling apart. Statistically speaking, the odds weren't in your favor. I remembered that version of Meth who bounced between couches, who flinched at every knock on the door, who'd all but disappeared into the background. Yeah, well, I said quietly, spite's a pretty good motivator. Harrison chuckled. Indeed, but spite only carries you so far. The rest takes grit, heart, and something special. The noise from the gym had faded. I hadn't touched my food in minutes. You know, he said, his tone softer now, we spend so much time mourning who isn't there, we forget who was. I frowned. No offense, but I've been pretty much on my own. Have you? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Ms. We've stayed late every Tuesday to help with calculus. Coach Phillips lets you shower at school. When your apartment's water got shut off, the cafeteria staff always made sure you had extra food on your tray. And someone, he gave me a knowing look, let you sleep in the teacher's lounge for a week when you had nowhere else. He'd crept up my neck. I hadn't known anyone besides Ms. Coleman was aware of that. She'd given me the key, told me to be out before 6. I thought it was our secret. You weren't invisible, Ethan, he said. You just didn't have the traditional support system, but that doesn't mean you were alone. I didn't respond. I didn't know how to. I have something for you, he said, reaching into his robe. He handed me an envelope. This was meant for the reception, but since we're here, inside was a card, filled edge to edge with messages from teachers and staff. Congratulations, Ethan, we're proud of you. You're going to do amazing things. Paper clipped to the card was a check, enough to cover my first semester's books at the community college. We know you got a partial scholarship, Harrison said. This is to help close the gap. It's not much, but it's everything, I said, my voice cracking before I could stop it. I cleared my throat. I mean, thank you. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, he replied. Just keep going. Make it count. He checked his watch. The reception's nearly over. I should get back. He reached for the door, then paused. You know, he said, looking back at me, we're shaped more by the people who show up than by the ones who don't. His eyes held mine, and sometimes, we just have to give people the chance. He stepped out, adjusted his robe, then leaned back down before closing the door. A few of us are heading to Donovan's Bistro in about an hour. Low-key staffing, nothing formal. If you want to come, I think a lot of people would like to see you there. Then he walked away, back toward the school, back to the celebration. I sat in the car for a long time after he left, holding the card, staring at the check, the fast food forgotten beside me. One by one, families pulled out of the lot and disappeared down the road. I watched them go. And for the first time all day, I didn't feel quite so alone. The proud parents, the grandparents with their cameras, the siblings, caught somewhere between boredom and pride. For the first time, I didn't feel the sharp pang of jealousy. Instead, I found myself wondering about their stories. How many of those smiling families carried complications behind the scenes? How many of those graduates had fought battles I'd never see? As the last car pulled out of the lot, I started my engine. The school building looked different now, not just a place I'd spent for years trying to escape, but a place that, in its quiet, institutional way, had sheltered me when I needed it most. I placed the signed card carefully in the glove compartment, like something fragile. Then I checked the time. The gathering at Donovan's would be starting soon. The thought of walking in made my stomach twist. But underneath the nerves was something unfamiliar, something that felt dangerously like hope. I opened my phone and looked up the address for Donovan's Bistro. It wasn't far. I could just drive by. No promises, no pressure, just a possibility. As I shifted into reverse, my eyes landed on my graduation cap in the back seat. I reached for it on impulse, placing it gently on the passenger seat beside me. A reminder that today, despite everything, I'd achieved something real. And maybe just maybe they didn't have to celebrate it alone. 20 minutes later, I pulled into the parking lot at Donovan's and nearly turned around 3 separate times. But then I saw Miss Reeves climbing out of her car, laughing at something Coach Phillips said. Ms. Coleman held the door open, her graduation hue swapped for practical flats. These people had seen me at my worst. They'd watched me bounce off in class from exhaustion, wear the same hoodie 3 days straight, scramble through lessons while juggling a life too heavy for a teenager. But they were still here, still showing up, still making space. I took a deep breath, grabbed my cap, and stepped out of the car. Principal Harrison noticed me first. He didn't wave or call out, just gave a quiet nod, the kind that said more than words. But Ms. Reeves lit up the moment she spotted me. Ethan, you made it, she called, like I was the final guest they'd all been waiting on. And then others turned, smiles blooming, voices calling out my name, not in obligation, but in genuine welcome. Something shifted in me then. A knot I'd been carrying loosened. A weight I hadn't even realized I was still holding began to lift. No, my graduation didn't look like everyone else's. There were no proud parents with bouquets, no teary-eyed relatives, no envelope cards with crisp bills inside. But as I walked through those doors, surrounded by people who had lifted me up when life tried to drag me under, I realized something else. I didn't just have support. I had a chosen family, the kind that saw my worth even when I couldn't. Sometimes, life doesn't give us the picture-perfect celebration. Sometimes, we eat alone in our cars while others gather inside. But sometimes if we're lucky, someone knocks on the window and reminds us that we're not as alone as we think. And sometimes, that reminder changes everything. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us keep sharing real stories about resilience, unexpected kindness, and finding family in the most unlikely places. And remember, you never know whose window you might need to knock on today or who might be knocking on yours.